Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Respecting the Beer. My name is Gary Arndt, and with me again are the good doctors, Allison and Bobby Fleshman. And Fleshman's Brewing Company has had a problem as of late. There was, how can I best say it?
Days since the last accident.
Yeah.
Sign.
So why don't you explain exactly what happened?
Take that.
Yeah, sure. So it was about 3 weeks ago, I guess. We came into the tap room and there was a sign on the back bar. It was a large chalkboard sign, and I believe it said 68 days with no public house pint. PHP is what we nickname her. And there was like a skull and crossbones picture on it. And we were like, what the hell? And the staff, I think it was Matt, he was like, don't look at me. They're mad. And so our patrons were very upset that we hadn't brewed Public House Pint Dry Irish Stout in a very long time.
This happens this time of year.
Oh
when
my
we're brewing
God.
Oktoberfest.
In the last episode, we talked about, or I don't even know when it was, when we were talking about Oktoberfest, we talked about the gamble that is brewing. And so Bobby will come up to me. He says, okay, are we going to brew? How much Oktoberfest are we going to brew? It's around February or March, around St. Patrick's Day, where he's like, okay, are we going to brew more Public House Pint to have it through summer? And it's a weird beer because people normally drink to the season. And so in summer, they normally don't drink the black beer or the dark beer. And I mean, Public House Pint, she's the blackest black beer. She's so gorgeous. You can't see through her at all. But he's like, do we brew another one and then not brew the other stuff that we need to sell over the summer? And I think I'm going to take it. And I think I said no. Was it me or was it you?
I think you might have said no. At least I backed you up for sure. I think it was a good idea.
Well, I'm always trying to read you to figure out, do you want me to say no? Do you want me to just come in and be like, we're not brewing it? Anyway, we failed. Apologies to.
We
brewed other things.
We brewed other things.
Anyway, and so it was fun. I posted a thing on social media where it was me Xing out the sign. I think it was the 78 days was when we finally had it on tap or on Nitro. And I could X out that and put 0 days, and I poured one. And that moment, though, I hadn't realized how much I love this beer because it had been, 4 or 5 months since I'd had it. And then I got a first pint of it. And oh, my God, the exquisite, creamy, chocolatey coffee, all the flavors. I just lost it.
And I wish we had a YouTube channel sometimes because this one is so photogenic.
I know. Well, and we were just recording the Oktoberfest and Fest beer episode, but I was drinking Public House Pint instead because I can't not. It's so good.
There's probably even more pictures taken of a Public House Pint here than anything else.
Yeah. Both before and after drinking, because it's one of the best glasses to see the lacing as well.
Well, during its pour and it's settling, it's doing the cascade.
Yes, the cascade.
It's the most photogenic beer we have. I think there's no argument there.
Mm-hmm. And the Nitro, and the staff are now having fun with it too, because the perfect pour is going to be the creamiest Nitro bubbles at the top, but there's no big bubble. You want like the pour right here. You can't see it, but I'll show my producer David. See, there's no bubbles. Isn't that cool? Or they're so tiny you can't see any big ones.
So why don't we start with the genesis then of the Public House Pint? Why did you choose to make this beer, and what goes into it?
You want to talk about that trip that we took where we named all the beers? Because this was one that we named on that trip,
yeah,
right?
it's trip to Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, before then, that's the one we named it. Did you brew this in Oklahoma?
I'm sure it wasn't called that, but
yeah. I don't remember you having a stout.
Oh, no, I brewed it. I don't know that I had it on Nitro, though.
Yeah. So, Guinness. I'll just go right to the punch. Guinness is a delicious beer, and my family went to Ireland and Scotland. When my sister graduated from college, my dad was like, let's go as a family. So we got one of those bus tour things, and we went to the Guinness brewery, and I was 18 at the time, and my dad and I shared a Guinness together, and it was the funnest thing ever. But Guinness tastes different in Dublin than it does in the United States. And I'd asked Bobby to brew Guinness like it should taste, and that's really where Public House Pint was born.
And I've talked a lot about this documentary called The Irish Pub. And I've never been to Ireland. I've been to England and Scotland, but Allison got to, I didn't get to go there. But I appreciate that culture, and we tried to replicate and bring here a pub that was respectful to what that is. And you can't do that if you don't have an Irish Stout. And you can't have a place that it's began with MC anything, even if it's a made-up name, and not have an Irish Stout.
Well, the McCoy is not a made-up name, but yeah.
Well, the brewery, I mean,
Yeah.
So we knew we had to lead with that. That was one of our first 4 beers. Recap those first 4. We had Pirates Cove, our Hellas Lager.
Pirates Cove, Tall Mast.
It was the English Mild.
Yeah,
And
Mild
Public
Angel
House.
and Public House.
We knew that was our,
Yeah.
we thought that would be our top 4 beers. And 3 out of 4, we were right. The mild was,
Well, and Mild Angel, her big sister is White Horse Porter.
yeah, and no one was ready for a 3.5% beer back then. But the world is now, so we'll probably see that one come back again. But 3 out of 4, we were right.
But Public House Pint, dry Irish Stout.
Yeah.
And we say dry Irish Stout. Is that what it really is?
I call it an Irish Stout. I think that the dry got appended to it. I don't think I would call it a dry. That shows up on our branding. But if we were to make a dry one, it would be more like a draft version of this. What people drink and they call Guinness is a draft Guinness, not an export Guinness. And it's a lot lower in sugar, a little drier, blah, 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 blah. We've never made one like that. This is what you get in so-called Ireland when you get a Guinness. This is what it would look like.
Yeah.
And so call it a dry if you want, but I think it borders those categories. And I'm not sure the rest of the world is as obsessed with categories as we are.
That's fair. But so we have our Public House Pint Stout. We also have the White Horse Porter. What's the difference between a porter and a stout?
So porter, historically, was a blend of, could have been a blend of an old and let's say a soured beer and a fresh one. You can get that at the pub, and you can get a user preference blend of old and new, and I think that applies to your milds too. But over time, they were able to develop these darker malts. And the brewers out there have heard of Black Patent malt, and it's named as such because the people that made it were doing it with equipment that was patented. And
I'm already not liking your answer.
well, it came because they were able to make these really dark specialty grains or specialty
Yeah,
malts.
so it's the quick answer though is like roasted barley and non-roast. Is it?
The roasted barley is
I have
what
to look
makes
on
it.
my phone.
It's what makes it a stout, yeah.
Okay, so the
but you
roasted-
couldn't have done that before the technology. So then they had the technology. They make this what they call stout porter, and eventually they just started calling it a stout. So people tend to think porter comes from stout, but in reality, it's the other way around.
Malted roasted barley is a porter. Unmalted roasted barley is a stout. Is that right?
Well, we tend not to use roasted malts in a porter. We don't want it to taste too acrid. We tend to use some. I mean, they're roasted, but not nearly to the temperatures that we're talking about in this context. And we're trying to achieve some chocolatey flavors in a porter. We're trying to get coffee notes in a stout, maybe a tinge acrid or a tinge burned, not off-putting, but it definitely is a dry beer because of those acidic notes that you get from
I would
from
much
cooking.
rather drink the porter when I have chocolate because it doesn't have that same.
Yeah. There's also caramel malts used in that. So back to
Caramel
that
malts.
call
Oh my
back from the other
goodness.
episode.
Bobby and his caramel malts.
Yeah. So caramel malts give you that sweetness, and we try not to do that with this beer. This beer is all about those roasted malts, and also there's a big player here we failed to mention at all. This is 30% flaked barley. Like straight out of the field.
How could we forget the flaked barley?
You just run barley through a machine, you flake it, you could eat it as a cereal. It's delicious.
Now, is oatmeal flaked? Is that what flaking
Yeah,
means?
I mean, you can get oatmeal that is flaked. Yeah, same
It's
idea.
like flake like a steamroller, like
yeah,
flat.
and so the starches and the proteins have a different structure than after being malted, and that's what gives it this amazing foam structure.
That is true. The head on the Public House Pint is a really gorgeous, thick cream foam.
And that comes also because of the nitrogen. The nitrogen makes those bubbles, and nitrogen bubbles don't pop.
That's what I was going to ask you because
Yeah.
I don't think we've really talked about it a whole lot on the show. On your menu, you have a special category for Nitro Beers.
Nitro.
Yeah.
Explain what it is and why you use it on this beer.
I'll let you take the science part.
Absolutely.
But let me do the historical part. Guinness did it because it was easier than doing cask ale. They got tired of
simulates cask.
doing cask beers, which is a whole thing that we could do an entire show on if we haven't already. But at the end of the day, we could cascade that. You make this product that's secondary fermented in what we call a firkin, and you run it through what we call a beer engine, which is like a water well pump through a
Which
little.
is what MSB is.
Which
and
is what
it's amazing.
MSB is, yeah. Oh, Thomas just got a silver at Nationals.
Don't
we didn't even
give it
mention that.
away.
Whoops, he'll edit that
Why
out.
did you do that?
Too late. I didn't know that was top secret.
Never mind. Don't.
Anyway, so that process by which you get this beautiful cascade, Guinness is a brilliant company. Time and again, they figured out ways to get ahead of the competition, and they came up with nitrogen infused.
So if you get a Guinness in Ireland, is it nitrogen
Yes.
infused?
you're worldwide, yeah.
As it
It's the
should
same.
be.
Yep.
So Bobby just talked about the history, and I get to do the science. So if you've ever listened to this podcast, you may have heard me address this most wonderful person and his law, which is known as Henry's Law. So nitrogen doesn't like to interact with water very much, and so it wants to come out of the water. And so carbon dioxide, however, kind of interacts with the water, and this is known as Henry's Law. The same reason that your soda will go flat or your beer will go flat if it's sitting out there, it's because the gas that's inside the liquid wants to escape. But nitrogen, actually, it wants to escape in a way that is faster, I guess. But what happens, though, is that it causes the bubbles to actually be much, much smaller. And so CO2 bubbles are going to be larger, and so you're going to get these foam heads that disappear rather quickly. But for any of the nitrogenated beers, it actually gets trapped because they're so small in comparison to CO2. They get trapped in the little protein pockets and they just stay there. And so what's called lacing is as every time you take a drink, you'll see this band or this ring of foam clinging to the side of a very clean glass. But you can see like the cadence of your sips. And so the foam stays in nitrogenated beers as opposed to disappears quickly in whatever they're called. Carbonated beers.
Yeah, so the bubbles don't coalesce with
Right.
nitrogen.
Yep.
Same way, yeah.
And I think that's what most people find. The reason why they find this so photogenic is really the head.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, but also the contrast between that foam and that color of that
Yeah.
beer, it's striking. It's why Guinness has built an empire on what their branding is built on what that beer looks like in that glass.
Straight line between
very
the foam
sharp, yeah.
and the beer. It's quite remarkable. And just looking at it, I mean, it's not only that, the bubbles are so small that that line is much more defined than the bigger bubbles of the Oktoberfest or the Marzen or the Fest beer that we just talked about. But that thick, or like very sharp line, it's so pretty.
So we struck gold on this beer in the sense that we thought we needed it. We thought it would be expected and it would be loved, and it turns out it has been. To the point that they made this sign that it was like days since an injury sign.
And it's so funny
Yeah.
too, because like we can the looking at the sales the next day or at any given
God, the
time.
next- yeah.
So some people that work with us are like, oh, or they might be new to the company, like, oh, so do we really need to brew, Public House Pint all the time or whatever? And then we just show them the sales, and it's like 80% of sales in one day is Public House Pint, which is pretty remarkable.
And we have a new tank arriving. We've mentioned a few times throughout the podcast, and it has been designed from the ground up to nitrogenate Public House. So adding nitrogen to a beer is not easy.
I was going to ask,
Yeah.
what is the physical process of doing that?
So you need a lot of pressure. I mean,
You
cold.
literally just have a nitrogen tank and then...
Yeah, and then you have an infuser stone. So you have a like 0.4 micron stone that allows you to permeate into the beer. And you do it under high pressure and temperature, and you can look at charts to figure out where your infusion rate is higher or lower. And we know how many grams that we need to put into a given volume, and we scale that up. And we've achieved it in a way that I've had many brewers tell me that they had no idea how this is done. And so I share those secrets to anyone that we're looking at the sales report today.
So the number one selling beer right now is our Oktoberfest Marzen Lager, and number 2 is Public House Pint Dry Irish Stout.
Yeah, and that's
So funny.
pretty typical this time of year for sure. But yeah, we are able to do it under high pressures. The tanks that we had built, the first tank we had built that's coming on Wednesday, allows us to go to 40 pounds of pressure. Normally 15 pounds is all these tanks are built for. And there are other ports and stones that allow us to do the recirculation and to achieve this. And every tank that we build from here out will have the same capability, because we don't want to wait for the one tank to open up for this reason. Because we have other beers that we do that are nitrogenated too, but this one has become a juggernaut.
How common is this technique with breweries? And maybe it's just my ignorance, but you guys tout the fact that you have nitro beers. I can't say I've really seen it anywhere else. Even if they're doing it, they don't mention it.
When you write a business plan, you sit down and you ask yourself, what are you going to make and who's your target audience? And I was going for a small slice of the market with the nitro. And it's paid off, because there's not any other brewer that I know of that's really going for it.
Well, and I know bars around, I mean, Guinness is so sneaky, because Guinness will have a proprietary tap that you can only use with Guinness.
Guinness is brilliant. They're the smartest company
they really
in the
are.
industry.
But then I was trying to think of the other breweries. Do they even have nitros?
So we have the Budweiser. The Budweiser distributor is our distributor. So they represent 80 different breweries, but we're the only one in their catalog that offer nitro like we do. Mm-hmm. So we can go anywhere with nitro. And that took a few years, because first of all, who the hell are we, And then eventually people start to know who we are, and then they have access to us through this distribution network. It just worked out. It was another one of those gambles that we played the game long enough.
What are our other nitro beers? We've got Stone's Throw, Irish Red.
Is our red.
We've got Scallywag, which is the blonde Irish stout.
Yeah.
Or blonde stout.
We do that one with blood orange as well. So it's Scally-O.
Scally-O versus Scallywag. But then we've also got, sometimes we'll have milk stout.
Milk stout we'll do on that once in a while. I don't think we've ever done White Horse, but that would work too.
I have a ridiculous question. What, can we nitrogenate 547?
No.
Why not?
Would you do that?
Well, I don't know. Why would
the nitro mutes the aromas. Because it's not popping. The bubbles aren't popping.
That makes sense. Yeah. Henry's Law. Hey.
I've had nitro.
What would you do though? Like if you had wouldn't it? If you wouldn't get the aroma, wouldn't you get it more in the flavor?
Retro nasal. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but we're not doing this because we need the mouthfeel. We're not touching 547. I'm now putting my Joel hat on. We're not going to touch that one.
Okay, well then pick another rant like Pirate's Cove.
No,
I mean that's kind of what the Lucre does. The Lucre gives you the same creaminess of the head.
It depends on what the goal is. Yeah, I think any of the cask ales could work because that's what they are.
Yeah,
they're trying to achieve nitro, or vice versa.
Yeah,
Nitro had a moment about 2 years ago when Pepsi introduced Pepsi Nitro.
Oh, that's weird.
Buzzword.
Well, I don't think they're doing it anymore.
I hope not.
Are they doing clear anymore? Or
It's called Sprite.
It was 50 years ago at this point.
That was actually a decent gimmick.
Yeah.
Because it was just removing something that really wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
But the Pepsi Nitro was in a special can and it had a much fuller taste to it, and I think that was the first and only time I've ever seen nitro beverages being talked about in kind of major media.
That's strange because in the soda world that's the whole thing, isn't it? It's the sugar, but that huge carbonic bite is what makes those work. That's an interesting way to take it. Nitro. Yeah,
and it's not several of your beers, I think one of the drawing points is it has kind of a sharp acidic taste.
Yep.
And that would kind of ruin it, I think, if you tried to do it with a nitro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Allison left the table for a minute. We're not touching 547 for the record.
Like a nitro something amber, I think would be awful.
No.
Run back to the microphone.
She's coming back to respond. Gary, you're running a debate now.
No. Okay. Question though. You've put 547 into a barrel aged it, which destroys aroma in a tequila barrel.
Does transform it.
And how did that go over?
Poorly.
No, there's definitely a certain group that like that, but not enough to repeat that. It's these experiments come and go.
Touche. And I'm not saying it all put 547 in nitro because I don't want to lose Public House Pint.
Yeah.
You could write a paper on that. Just like barrel-aged West Coast IPA did not work.
Well, yeah. Let's put Joel as a co-author on He would respond before we even start.
Just out of curiosity, is there an academic journal for beer and brewing?
Oh,
There
yeah.
has to be.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
my God,
the
yeah.
American Brewing, ASB.
There's tons of them. The
ASBC?
Institute of Brewing Distilling in
The
London.
American Society of Brewing Chemists.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, the American Chemical Society has food and agriculture. And there was a paper that was just published, or not published, a poster that was presented at the American Chemical Society in DC just this past week about how it's highlighted in Nature, and I'll post it on our social media. Nature being like the top science article or science journal, about how there are basically two types of beer drinkers. There are those that love malt and there are those that love hops, and it might be genetic as to why. Ooh. Isn't that exciting?
There you go.
Your genes dictate whether or not you like 547 or MSB.
So XXY if you like both, because I definitely do like both.
Well, I mean, there's always going to be an outlier.
Yeah. You sing them out loud.
Yeah. Yes, there are academic brewing journals. There's a lot of different fun science that you can do. Yeah, that's true. Although I don't necessarily know that that would be something that people would read about if you like nitrogenated and or
If you
changed.
say IPA in a journal title, they'll read it. It doesn't matter whether it's the general public or the professional brewers, because it's relevant to sales.
I guess that's fair.
Anything you do to an IPA,
There was an
people are
article years
watching.
ago about how people were toasting the hops before they threw them in to like
Yeah.
add the Maillard reaction to the leaves, and then seeing what that did. And it added this extra dimension of toastiness that didn't come from the malt; it came from the hops, and it was like a late boil edition. Oh my God!
You should do it and so you could jack up your H score.
That's fair. I really should. Well, we also need to brew with the amber that you have that's millions of years old. Write a paper on that.
Yes, and here's why.
Because it has a shelf life.
No. So, are you familiar with the Kevin Bacon number? Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's an actual thing. If you're in a movie on IMDb, they can calculate your distance for Kevin Bacon. So, I'm actually credited in IMDb because I appeared on a couple of documentaries as myself. So, I have an IMDb listing. In academic publishing, there's a thing called the Erdish number.
Yes.
From Paul Erdish, who wrote a lot of mathematics papers.
Yes.
And there's only, I think, the last I saw, there were 2 or 3 people that had both an IMDb and an Erdish number.
Oh.
One of them was Danica McClellan, who was...
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
She
So
was
she was Winnie Cooper
yeah,
on
Wonder Years.
Wonder Years, and she then later became a mathematician, got her PhD in chemistry, PhD in mathematics.
So, I could be one of those people.
Oh my God!
So,
But you would have to co-author with us.
Yeah, you have to get on the...
no, I just need to have a credit. I know how academic stuff works.
That's fair.
One final question I had about Public House Pint. How long does it take to brew it compared to your other beers?
So
Stouts?
that is another thing. When you build a brewery, you look at tank time. We only have so many weeks to make these beers.
This is why we love Sudebrow Hefeweizen, because tank time is 3 days. That beer is so great.
Public House is not far behind. So these Irish beers turn around very quickly on the
This is going to
fermentation
make our
side.
pub clubbers really pissed to know that it only takes a few days. And I'm like, what the hell?
Well, no, there's steps beyond that. It's not just the fermentation phase, but it does go quickly
so
in
it's 4
that
or 5
sense.
days.
They love raw barley. Yeast do. Yeast love that flaked barley. Every brewery I've ever worked in, stouts go fast because, well, especially when they use this raw barley. But yeah, about 3 days is all it takes. You can compare that to 20 days for primary phase for a lager. So it's a very different animal, and you have to balance that. You can't just have lagers unless you have an infinite farm of tanks.
All right. That concludes this episode of Respecting the Beer. The producer of Respecting the Beer is David Kelso. Without David, there would be no show. Please join the Facebook group to get updates and support the show over on Patreon, where you can listen to the bits that don't make it into the regular show. Links to both of these can be found in the show notes. And until next time, please remember to respect the beer.